Hi, I'm Shashi Saluna. I'm going to be facilitating on this wonderful journey of love. And the organizers invited us to share our own story of how we overcame suffering with Tantra. So that's a really good question. And in a way, I could say in every way, Tantra has helped. It's been such a big part of my life for nearly 20 years now, like 19 years. But if I were to pick one area, one thing, one aspect, then I would pick the word empowerment, and especially sexual empowerment. But, it's more than sexual empowerment, but empowerment is really the word. And, throughout life, I have noticed that basically there's a lot of suffering whenever I'm giving away my power. And there are different ways in which I've done this. One has been victimhood and blaming others for my pain or my suffering or my situation. And that shows up a lot in relationships. It used to show up in relationships, but that's the place where it would show up and always cause suffering. Like, it would basically make me feel that my partner was wrong and that I was a victim. And that's just such a unpleasant place to be. And in terms of sexual empowerment, before I came to Tantra, thinking back a long way, I was very disempowered sexually. I grew up with the idea that basically the guy had to do everything, and I just kind of would lie there and, receive pleasure or not, or just pretend to receive pleasure or whatever. So disempowered, very disempowered. And consequently, I didn't really enjoy sex. And, I was pretty celibate when I was 20. I became a Buddhist. I was kind of over the whole thing. Didn't know what it was all about. And then I met a tantric lover. Now, it's still not the most empowering story because I met a tantric lover who really opened me up. So I still received at this point, and stayed with him for 10 years. But pretty soon into the relationship, of course, I realized I needed to get empowered, that you can't really be rescued even by a tantric lover. That ultimately I still had a niggling sense I wasn't good enough, I wasn't tantric enough, I wasn't sexy enough, I wasn't enough. And that in itself is the core root at disempowerment, I believe, is the thought, I'm not enough. I'm not sexy enough, not beautiful enough, not good enough, not whatever. I'm not enough. And, how do we tackle that thought? It's a mixture. Like one way that we tend to think is like, right, I'm going to be successful on the outer level and then I'll overcome this feeling of not enough. But of course, that doesn't fully do it, as we know. That can create a false shell where to the outside world, you're pretending that you've got it all sussed and inside you feel all broken and you hope no one ever finds out. So what I love about Tantra is that there are external shifts. You start to feel more alive and more juicy, more sexy, all these wonderful external things. But the key is that there is finally a safe space for the shadows to be shared. And through sharing and workshops, through different processes, through sharing circles and through relationship, through communication of vulnerability, you finally learn to be able to express what is vulnerable and what you're afraid of, and basically the shadow self that you would normally hide can finally have a safe space to come out. And it's that creates the healing journey that moves us from I'm not enough to I am enough as I am. And the beauty of Tantra is an external shift happens from that internal shift. So you start to feel more alive and more juicy. And especially working around sexuality, I work so deeply with women's sexuality in a lot of my life, and I notice there are women who you think are sexually empowered and they've done this like girl power, got this great body and the moves and whatever, but when you actually work with them intimately, you discover that there's an inauthenticity there and a lack of genuine pleasure, because faking it just doesn't work. It's just a mask. We really have to go in and we have to reclaim those shadows. And then a vibrant, juicy sexiness comes that is really authentic and genuine. It's a celebration of that inner healing. It's not a compensation for the lack of healing. It's actually a celebration of the healing that has happened within. So I hope that makes sense. And that is in itself the journey of empowerment. It is reclaiming the shadows, and not only the shadows, but like the denials, the places where you've been projecting and giving away your power, your responsibility, making yourself a victim, making someone a persecutor. All of these are part of our shadow that we would just keep playing out and would keep causing us suffering and misery and the same old situations until we can shift it. And what I love about Tantra is finally we have the space, the tools, and the capacity to make that shift happen. So that's my sharing of how Tantra has empowered my life. Just to finish off, I did say that I felt very disempowered when I was 20, 21, 22, when I met my first tantric lover. My story is I then went away on my own and did women's work. I did breast massage and jade egg practices and pelvic floor stuff and belly dancing. And, I just did it all and started to awaken my own Shakti, and then discovered, wow, there's an energy in me that just wants to be love and make love and express love. And I'm sexy on my own, and I'm sexy with a partner, and I don't need anyone to be sexy. And if I'm in love with someone, I share that with them. And if I'm with myself, I share it with myself. And so that shift is massive. And I guess because it was so fulfilling for me, that's why I have dedicated my whole life to helping others into that sense of sexual empowerment and also inner spiritual empowerment. So I hope to see some of you in February and March in Koh Phangan. And see you there.